The Equal Justice Initiative opened a new museum and memorial in Montgomery last spring. The Equal Justice Initiative is a nonprofit organization that provides legal representation to people who have been illegally convicted, unfairly sentenced, or abused in state jails and prisons. It also works with communities that have been marginalized by poverty and discouraged by unequal treatment. A group of Spring Hill College students went to EJI's Peace and Justice Summit to experience the weekend and to see the museum and memorial. The Legacy Museum opens the doors for conversation about the history of slavery in the United States and the lasting effect it has had and continues to have on society. The words, "You are standing on a site where enslaved people were warehoused," are the first words we saw when we walked into the museum. It was chilling. The National Memorial for Peace and Justice is the place to commemorate those who lost their lives from being lynched. Names of individuals hung on blocks of iron that depicted their counties. The number of names on each block, the number of iron blocks themselves, and the story each name held was shocking. But it was partnered with reverent beauty. Everywhere I looked, there were people sharing their stories. They intentionally were looking at each other and were starting a conversation with someone who was willing to listen. Our time in Montgomery allowed us the freedom to hurt and begin to heal. We created the space to make room for the beauty of God. We took time to listen, to begin the journey and move forward towards peace and justice. Our mission this weekend is to journey to the intersections as disciples and allies, to be listeners and advocates. As we continue with our presentation, you'll see pictures from our experience at the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. Each of us took something different from our time in Montgomery, and you can see that through these pictures.
The museum and also shed light on the U.S. prison system and displayed how mass incarceration equates to modern-day slavery. In 2018, Blacks remain in chains behind bars, making up 37.9% of the prison population. They are labeled as criminal for the rest of their lives. They enter into a permanent second-class status and are stripped of basic civil and human rights. During our time in Montgomery, we learned about Anthony Ray Hinton, who was on death row in Alabama for 30 years before being released for a crime he did not commit. Hinton adamantly reached out to EJI's Brian Stevenson and his legal team for aid. Due to EJI's commitment to its mission, Anthony Hinton now has a voice to share his story with the masses. As we meet at these intersections, we recall words of advice from Pope Francis. This is important, to get to know people, listen, expand the circle of ideas. The world is crisscrossed by roads that come together and move apart, but the important thing is that they lead toward the good. May we journey together toward that good.
My trip to Montgomery became more personal than I ever could have imagined. It was a sunny day in Montgomery, Alabama. The energy of the group was high yet reverent. As we ventured in, we looked up and saw places that we recognized and years that meant things to us. I, however, ended up lagging behind the group because I saw names that I did not expect. Their names were Samuel and William Powell. They were lynched on July 24th, 1917, in Loudoun County, Alabama. I saw these names, and this trip full of reverence and memorialization became this much larger quest for self-discovery and familial reconciliation. Samuel and William were the only kin that I found that I recognized. I found Charles Powell, who was lynched in Lafayette County, Arkansas. Robert Powell, who was lynched in Harris County, Texas. Jim Powell, who was lynched on June 4th in 1895, and at least 5 others whose names struck my heart. there were tears, a lot of tears, and a connection to my past that I thought died with a beat of their hearts, yet here I am. Here we are, talking about them, looking at their lives and the impact that the death of my family members and the death of so many others has on us in this present moment. This trip to EJI was a reminder of the reality that we are, that I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. For who in their right mind in 1895 would think that a black man who was a son of a slave and a sharecropper himself would have kin from Chicago who decades later would be standing on a stage talking about him? Talking about him and his sacrifice. And that I would be someone who can read, who can write, who can, has, and will vote. And be someone who can truly experience life. At EJI, legendary journalist Gloria Steinem said that hope is a form of planning. And seeing my family members' names etched into history has given me hope because of how far we have come. Yet it has set my heart on fire to make plans because of how far yet we still have to go.
Hope. I have hope that we are now standing on the right side of history. The opening of the museum and memorial is just one of the building blocks towards social change. Fear is something that often holds us back from having many of these important conversations. Whether that is fear of the unknown, fear of not being heard, or fear of being misunderstood. We must begin to have these uncomfortable conversations. I am hopeful for our future because we are starting to address many issues African Americans have faced for so long. Mass incarceration, police brutality, and inequality are just some of the many issues that are coming to surface. For myself, hope is found in sharing my experiences with the world. Hope is found in taking the steps to better the lives of others. So register to vote and actually vote. Too many people have fought and died for this right. Talk to elected officials and express your concern about policies. On Monday, you will be given this opportunity to discuss these very issues. This is a battle that is not fought by one, but by many, joining together to fight for the injustices of the world. And always remember, we are our future.